Hi, this is Dr. Stephanie Wautier, and I'm the host of Conversations with a Chiropractor. This is not a health how-to, but rather a conversation with some amazing people I've had the pleasure of being with on my journey of life. Think of it more like Tuesdays with Maury, a fireside chat, or chicken soup for the soul. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and enjoy this conversation with a chiropractor. Hey there. Today on Conversations with a Chiropractor, I am joined by Dr. David Moore. David is a chiropractor, he is a professor, he is a digital creator, and he is the inventor of a system called the Brain Body Balance Basics Academy. Dr. Dave, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a lot of stuff. I'm like, wow, it sounds pretty impressive. I had a lot of free time, I guess. Yeah, Brain Body Breathing Academy. So thank you so much for having me here and allowing me to just talk about this. It's just kind of a passion project for me to help people in this way. And I love what you're doing in this podcast. You're doing some great work and getting this information out to the masses. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for being here. I want to go all the way back to why you decided to become a chiropractor. Were you an athlete? Did you grow up seeing a chiropractor?
Yeah, so luckily my family had been going to chiropractors before, when I was a kid, and I always had some neck issues growing up. That was always an issue. My grandmother had a back problem. My grandmother is still alive at 102 years old, by the way, chiropractic patient. They brought me at an early age, and thank God they were chiropractic believers, and that was just part of our life growing up. And then later on, through sports, I fractured my neck. I dislocated my shoulder. I hyperextended my knee, my whole left side through sports injuries, and then I got hit by a car on the left side, all before I got to college. So all of those things, I had an intimate relationship with my chiropractor. My mom worked for a chiropractor, Dr. Ken Willos, who one day just said to me, I didn't know what to do with my life. And he's like, you can do anything you want to do. You should become a chiropractor. And I was like, well, I don't know how, my grades aren't that great. I was in second year in college or so, and just having fun in my fraternity. And he was like, you could do anything you put your mind to. It was just one of those moments. And he gave me an adjustment. And like that seed in my head, and that adjustment set a course of action into play, I believe, which eventually became a chiropractor. And it was a wonderful experience in my life, the great pleasure of my life. But unfortunately, those injuries that I talked about, no matter how much I tried to stay fit and work out, even though I adjusted high volume, took care of people, eventually it took its toll. I eventually had to get out of practice because of chronic pain. So that's kind of my story. And I'll talk more about that, but that's, there's my whole chiropractic story right there from beginning to end. But
I love it that your mom worked for a chiropractor, that your family believed in this, that you have this grandmother who's over 100 years old. That's very cool. And you're in New York State?
I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay.
Yeah.
But you went to the New York Chiropractic College.
I went to NYCC. I went to New York Chiropractic College. I got my education there. Very technical college. They talk more about the science and the technique, that kind of thing. And that was kind of what I was drawn to. I love anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and I ended up teaching it at college actually recently, anatomy and physiology. But when I got out, I got really more into the philosophy. I saw that bigger practices and people that were serving larger amounts of people were doing something different. So I really kind of hung out with the life grads, ended up eventually speaking on stage at Life University and be more of a philosophy person. So I ended up getting a very rounded education in chiropractic on my own beyond school because I knew there was more out there. Everybody talks about mixers, and I got a good 360-degree view of chiropractic, and I was able to just create my own understanding and how to serve people and through that philosophy, because I think I kind of borrow from both ends of the field there. But I certainly believe that the nervous system is the primary system of the body. It runs everything, right? It controls and regulates every cell, tissue, and organ in your body. If your nervous system isn't functioning properly, then you can't be healthy. You can't be maximally functioning, right? So if you're not getting adjusted on a regular basis and checked, then you're not at 100%. So chiropractic is such an important part of life, and that's our philosophy. And I still work 2 days a week in an office. I put my hands on people, but it's an all Spanish-speaking office, all personal injury. I love it because I just served with my hands and my heart. And what's ended up happening from that is not being able to express myself to them and teach them the philosophy. My voice started to come back out after selling my practice and being away for 3 years and getting my body back. I wanted to start using my voice again. That's what we're doing here now, just educating people and talking about it. And I've got my fire back, and being able to serve people this way is awesome.
I mean, that must have been a really horrible and sort of tragic time to try to navigate, like, what can I do? What am I going to do with my practice and my patients? And, like, I'm physically hurting while I'm helping people feel better. So that must have been a crossroads for you, probably a really tumultuous time emotionally and physically, I don't know, maybe even financially, as you're like deciding what to do.
Well, interesting you say that, because that's how the breath work all came about, right? So going back 9 years ago, I'm looking at, like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. My body hurts. I'm going to work. I'm adjusting people. They're coming in pain. They're coming in less pain than me, right? I'm adjusting them. They're walking out fine, and I'm leaving work, destroyed. It's funny. They teach you how to build a practice, and you can go to seminars to build a practice. There's no school on how to close a practice. I didn't even know how to get out. So this is kind of touches on this point of stress and anxiety in life with people. If you're ever in a point where you just feel stuck, like, that was my passion. That was my identity as a chiropractor. This is what I did. It's what I loved. I was Dr. Dave. What do I do if I'm not a chiropractor? And that was a very stressful time. You're right. I met a friend of mine at a church parking lot on a Friday night who was a successful stockbroker in Wall Street. He went to work on 9/11 a little late that day because of his schedule. And he saw the first building was already hit. He was looking up at his work, and people were jumping out of the building. So long story short, he ends up with major PTSD, anxiety, alcoholism. That was 2001. Now it's 2016. He came up to me and he asked me if I knew anything about breath work. And I didn't really know much about it, but I was kind of looking for things myself to deal with stress and anxiety. So I looked into it. He knew I was a chiropractor and we were friends. That started me on this road to understanding the connection between emotions and your physiology. As a chiropractor, what really blew me away was understanding how breath work was an access point to our nervous system. And it's a way for us to not only calm it down, but put it into a particular state that's healthy. And you could actually measure it. We use heart rate variability to do that, creating a system where people could, not just for the yoga people and the woo-woo people, which I love that stuff, but a system for everyday people to start to get control of their nervous system and actually rewire it. Because it's important, because most people are living in fight or flight and stress anyway. So that's kind of what I do. And that's kind of how it all came about, was the breakdown of the body and the stress and the anxiety, not knowing what to do with my family, with my business. It kind of brought me to understand that. It didn't help me much help me with my stress. Didn't fix the business problem or the body problem, right? But now 9 years later, having done that technology and used and collected my data, become an instructor, now I can help people regulate their nervous system. I can help them rewire their nervous system from stress and anxiety to really present and powerful. And that's what I do now. I help people get their life back through the breath work.
I love that. I have this sort of analogy with my patients that all these different modalities are like a sun on a horizon and all the rays of sunshine. Like, chiropractic is one of those rays, completely essential to clear the nervous system of interference. But there are other rays of sunshine that we need to implement to be our highest selves. Of course, what we eat, what we drink, what we put into our bodies, what we're watching on television and social media, our thoughts. And I'm intrigued by this breath work because Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, and there's so much more research and awareness, I think, culturally, that we acknowledge that our thoughts create our reality. We acknowledge that our nervous system is and can be completely tanked by our thoughts and our anxious mind. And so I love that we can implement some breath work. I want you to talk actually about this heart rate variability as well, if you don't mind, so that our listeners can understand what it is.
Sure. Well, to understand that your thoughts, right? You understand the continuum of, if you ever heard thoughts, you have your thoughts, you have your feelings, your actions, and your results. Well, your thoughts are for the mind, right? Think of the thoughts as being like the drive-in movie theater. These are the things that you're thinking about, you're seeing in your mind's eye, right? Those are your thoughts. And you're having 60,000 thoughts a day, right? And 85% of your thoughts were exactly the same as the ones that you had yesterday, okay? So it's the constant stream of thoughts that are happening. So once you focus on a thought and you attach a feeling, all right, that means you're bringing from your memory or from your limbic system an emotional feeling. A feeling is for the body, all right? The feeling is how the body remembers. So you see the thought, but the feeling is literally a feeling. If you close your eyes and you literally thought about grandma's apple pie and you sniffed it in, you'd have a digestive response. You'd have a heart variability response. You would have a hormonal response. It's a physiological reaction to a thought creating the feeling. So it's thoughts, feelings, right? Actions, results. So what we're really doing is if once you start to realize that your feelings are creating physiological change, right? Which is measured by heart rate variability, okay? Now your feelings are creating certain patterns in your body. So the question now becomes, if your consistent feelings are creating consistent physiological reactions, then what are you consistently having feelings about? Because that's what's giving you your predictable health outcomes. So what are we thinking about all day, guys? Are we stressed out and we're having anxiety because we're creating cortisol as the hormone? We're creating tension in our body, high blood pressure, erratic heart rate variability. You know, that's where we're living. And unfortunately, that was not supposed to be where we lived. That's supposed to be an event. All of those things are important for us to serve us in an event called fight or flight. And it's an event, right? Not a lifestyle, right? Yes. When we're on this side of the fence, we're creating DHEA, which is a healing hormone, oxytocin. You are creating a coherence in your nervous system, different digestive reaction. You're healing. So the thing is, we're supposed to be living here, and that's where we'd have different health outcomes, but we're living here. Most people's chronic illness, disease, issues, complaints, and symptoms, believe it or not, are coming from their feelings. Most people think when they feel crappy, they feel physically bad, they have bad emotions, but they don't realize what most of the time it's happening is their emotions are driving how they're feeling. And that's really where the heart rate variability comes into play, because we could not only get people to do the breath work, but we can train the emotion to get them into those higher levels of coherence. And it's a great way to regulate your nervous system if you're having an issue. But the best way for it to work is when you build resilience by doing it on a regular basis, kind of like what I call the love treadmill, where you put yourself in this wonderful place and spend 5 or 10 minutes there. Because if you're never there anyway, you get to do it in the morning and at night. Think about the impact it'll have as you rewire your nervous system for coherence and health. We already know it's working here because we can see the symptoms in our office.
Yeah. Oh, and I think so many of us in this Western culture world, you know, we're workaholics. I have 2 busy teenagers and a practice that I run, and I co-own another business, and I'm seeing patients. From the minute that my alarm goes off, I'm like, okay, I've got to do this, and I've got to give the dog the pills. And I completely acknowledge this. Like, I am living in fight or flight, and I've done my own work and, you know, life coaching. But I will be honest that I've never done breath work. So I'm intrigued by this. I'm intrigued how it can change neurology. I'm intrigued how it can change our health at the cellular level. And you've spent 9 years developing this program, and you've seen the research yourself, right? You have seen with your own eyes people changing.
Absolutely. And it's happening all over the world. And the reason why breath work works, if you think about your autonomic nervous system, right? So we talked about the movie screen being with our conscious thought, right? Then there's a part of our brain that's running things automatically, right? Your blood pressure, your heart rate, your breath, your digestion, your hormones are all happening on an unconscious level. So what's interesting about breath work is out of all of those things that are happening on an unconscious level, you've been breathing, even before you were born, you were breathing amniotic fluid reflexively as a fetus, right? Then you're born, and then they spank you, and then you're breathing the air, but you're constantly breathing. It's automatic. It's involuntary, right? But it's also voluntary. Breath, out of all those things, is the access point to the autonomic nervous system, because now you have access. So now through my breath, whether I breathe or not breathe, or how deep or different patterns I create, I can now guide my heart's rhythms, right? Because heart is based on the oxygen coming in, and then the heart's not just a pump, it doesn't go fast or slow. It actually sets the rhythm The brain has a 5-to-1 ratio. It's a 1 to the heart and then 5 back to the brain, resets the autonomic rhythms for the hormones, the blood pressure, the digestive system. So if you can synchronize all those things through breath and thought, you can drive the nervous system anywhere you want it to go, by the way. You're already doing that if you're under stress. You're already doing it wherever your thoughts are and your feelings, you're already doing it. So now you're intentionally creating a practice of doing it. And that's what I teach people to do. I have a free course, and I would love for you to be in it, and you'd be great in the community because it's a community too. It's a basic conversation about what we're talking about. And I just think people, they should have the right to know this, that if their emotions and their feelings are driving their feelings. If I can just get that information out to people and let them decide for themselves whether they want to consider it or not, that's cool. But for the last 9 years, I've been walking around with this information and people are like, oh, you breathe, is that good for you? And like, how do you answer that question without doing a podcast about it? You know, like that's kind of where we are. And I just would love for people to understand that element, because you know your patients when they come, they'll hold their adjustments better because it's the stress and it's the anxiety. That's the stuff that's causing the chronic issues and even the tension patterns in their life, right?
Dr. Dave, tell us a little bit about where we can find you online, where we can find you on social media.
So the course is a great place because it's also a community. We meet once a week in there. We talk with 30 minutes. We do a little breathing brain break. So it's great. Come in. It's a school community. My Facebook page has all my access to it too. I'll have that below as well, David Moore DC. And then all my socials. I'm always just making videos and just trying to educate people about this stuff. It's my passion.
Videos. There's one that I actually want to talk to you about. So you talk about Monday through Friday, pedal to the metal, we're working. And then what happens to us on the weekend when we think that we are quote unquote relaxing? Some of us maybe are more weekend warriors than others, but you had a video about that. Can you speak on that a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you think about this concept of the physiology of stress or the biology of stress, what's happening? And even this affects your sleep. It affects, if we're cranked up on we're American, Monday morning, we're coffee.
Yep.
And it's like, get it done. We're rainmakers. We're getting it done. We're making it happen. We're making it happen. We're drivers. We're trained for that. We celebrate that in our culture. That's who we are. And if you're not doing something like, oh, you're off today, like, oh, it must be nice. It's almost like you're not in the game, and like it's such pressure to not be there. So we're conditioned for it. We go to school that way. So like Monday through Friday, we're wired for it. So our nervous system is wired for it. But what's interesting is our hormones are wired for it. People, when I started teaching anatomy and physiology again, what blew me away, because obviously we were chiropractors, bones, muscles, nerves. We wanted to know that for our stuff. But then understanding how hormones work and even blood vessels work, but hormones in particular, once you start pumping hormones in the system, it's your pharmaceutical factory, right? You're pumping adrenaline, you're pumping dopamine. Think about it. When you go to your waiting room, what are they all doing? They're on their phone because they can't stand to sit there and be quiet. We're so overstimulated that when we're understimulated, we need stimulation to feel normal. If they can't even sit in a chair for 5 minutes without bringing their dopamine level up, reminding them who they are, checking their emails, checking their texts, that's where we live. So because of that, Monday through Friday, all of a sudden Saturday morning, you're going to kick back and have your eggs and like watch this. This doesn't happen. It's like you just keep moving, or you don't, or even if you do for 2 days, it's not enough because you're literally burnt out from the week and you're crashing on the weekends, and your hormones don't have a chance to recover because it's a 5 day on, 2 day off rhythm. So when is it ever going to happen? So we want to catch ourselves during the week and create life things in our day, in our morning, and our night intentionally, to start and love ourselves enough to do it and realize what we're doing to ourselves is not productive. We need to know it's not about time management anymore. It's about energy management. When you manage your energy, that stuff's not even that hard. When you manage your energy, it's not that stressful. You'll get it done, and you'll get it done better, more efficiently. You'll enjoy it, and you won't be burnt out on the weekends. And that's kind of where we want people to be, because the world's getting nuts out there. We got to step in, Doc.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the quote unquote self-help world and industry. And there's a woman who said, someone was interviewing her and she said, wow, you just came off stage. You must be so exhausted. And she said, no, I've trained my nervous system that on a day like today, I'm just excited. I'm pulling from the positive energy. And I do think that the basics of this breath work is that we have to retrain our mind, our thoughts, because it is affecting our nervous system. And I love that heart rate variability stuff too. Just thinking we will hit a wall. We can't do this forever, whether it is our digestive system. I know many people who have IBS or a different digestive thing, and their physicians are saying, do breath work, manage your stress, manage your emotions, because they are now acknowledging, even in Western medicine, that anxiety, the stress is affecting us physically. So yay, breath work. Yay,
absolutely. It's really, if you think about it, it's where our body and our minds are crossing, right? It's bringing ourselves to be aware of just being aware and be in the moment. Otherwise, we're usually in fear or just worried about stuff from our past, or we're concerned about our future. We're never in the moment. And everyone talks about that's where you need to be. Like, you need to be here. And that's done by just acknowledging your emotions and your feelings and having a practice of doing that. It's a game changer for people. So the free community is cool. We love that. And the whole community is around the free course and that conversation. For those people that want to go next level, I train people on that. That's what I do for a business. I love that as well. But it's for those people that understand the conversation. So the conversation has to happen. And then people naturally will say, if that's for me, then I'd love to work with you. I teach 5 different techniques. 2 are emotional resilient techniques. And I also teach a regulation technique. So depending on situations, and I just create a program and teach them how to have a practice. It's a 90-day thing. So by the time they're done, they have a practice and they've rewired their brain and their lives have changed on some level. And it's so much fun to be able to do that with people. So I encourage that for people to just explore the possibility of breath work in their life and how it could impact them. It's not just for yoga people, right? Which is great. I love the woo-woo. I love it. I actually like that stuff, but that's not what I teach. I teach this for everyday people to understand that they can have control of their brains and their bodies, and they can be healthier and they can have a better experience in life and be in the moment just by understanding how their brain and their body works.
And it will affect them in the long run.
Think about it. It's most chronic illness and disease we're seeing today is because of chronic stress, right? We're seeing heart disease, number 1 killer in our country is heart disease, heart attack, so high blood pressure, or this immediately, 60,000 miles of blood vessels in your body, 60,000 miles. Okay. So as an A&P teacher, that blew me away. That means you can go back and forth from New York to LA 10 times on your blood vessels. Do you know that there's 3 layers to if you think of a hose, right? The outer hose is don't get caught up on the words, right? The middle, the zona, the externa, the interna, and the media. Well, the media, the tunica media is muscular. So the tunica media can contract the blood vessel or dilate the blood vessel. So imagine being able to immediately contract or dilate 60,000 miles of blood vessels with your autonomic nervous system and just relax it like that. You think that's going to impact blood pressure? You think that's going to impact, all of a sudden relax your digestive system because your stomach's in the knot. You think that your digestive sickness and the pills you're taking are most likely trying to counteract what you could be doing by balancing out your autonomic nervous system through breath work and getting your adjustments. I mean, if you just start doing that and maybe drinking some fresh water, stay a little hydrated, I bet you a lot of people, their lives would change, right? And we're talking about simple things, get out in some sunlight, go barefoot outside on the ground, get out and just be the animals that we are instead of these robots in front of computers that are attached to technology. Let's just let our heart become one with the sun and earth and breathe, as opposed to oh my goodness, what is the president and the vice president and this person and that, and come on, man, they're programming us so they can be so high wired that we'll do anything they want us to do. Free yourself up, love yourself enough to realize that your brain and your body and your consciousness are yours. It could be an experience that you can guide as opposed to having other things guide you, right? Find the things that you have love for and passion for. Bring them into your life and your thought and your breath work and your day. We get to go see patients today. That is awesome. We get to put hands on people today. We're doing this podcast at 8 o'clock in the morning, by the way. We're fired up to go take care of people because that's what we want to do, because we want to see the world change, and we know that we're going to, on a small level, one person at a time, put our hands on people, have a conversation, probably a hug or two, and just our fist pounds and just go get those people better and get them happy and give them hope and life. And that's what chiropractic's all about.
Dr. Dave, you are truly an inspiration. I am so excited to start this breath work with you, and I'm excited to share this with our listeners. We will have all the links in the show notes and on my social media posts, but thank you so much for your authentic passion and your desire to really change the world. You are doing it, and I thank you.
I appreciate you and your leadership. BJ Palmer, the son of the founder, DD, he had the radio station. It was all about getting the word out to people. The fact that you're taking the leadership to talk about what you love, to help people from your heart, is an inspiration. I appreciate you allowing me to be part of it today.
Thanks, Dr. Dave.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, like, or subscribe? You can find me on social media at wautierwellness.com, Dr. Stephanie Wautier on Instagram, or Wautier Wellness Chiropractic and Massage on Facebook. And I'm so curious where your next conversation will take you.